So we come to Pluto in the seventh. He seems to have required a whole episode to himself. And, well, what immediately comes to mind is the myth of Persephone, because that is the Pluto myth we use to describe Pluto transit, but it is also a myth about relationship. And what happens is that Pluto's got his eye on Persephone, Proserpina, really. I'm muddling Greece and Roman, but that's what I like to do. She's the daughter of Ceres, nature goddess, and the world is in summer all the time. And Ceres won't let Pluto have her daughter, so he abducts her to the underworld, which is his world. And Ceres is distraught and she doesn't know what's happened. And the world turns to winter. And eventually, I think through the agency of Mercury, she finds out, and there's a negotiation. That's interesting. We negotiate with Pluto. And by this time, he has raped Persephone and then married her. And the deal they come to is that she's allowed out of the underworld for 6 months of the year, but the other 6 months he will spend with her. And so the 6 months she's back up with her mother, the world becomes summer again because of her mother's joy. But then the other 6 months are winter. And that's how the seasons first came about. So what does this say about Pluto in the seventh? Well, it talks about a rite of passage, doesn't it? I mean, it's put in brutal terms, but it's to make a point. We need to be able to look at these tales outside of our human judgment. Ceres moves from being a girl to being a woman. Yeah, because she's married, she becomes a wife. Her mother didn't want to let her. And in a way, this is Pluto's nature here. Nature forces it. You can't stop life unfolding and moving on to the next stage. This is the devouring mother archetype, which Freud pointed out. Yeah, Ceres is being the devouring mother, and Pluto is nature going, no, your daughter will move on. You cannot possess her. You cannot own her. So this is relationship as moving from childhood to adulthood. We are with someone who is not a parent looking after us. We are with someone who is another person who has their own needs. When you're a child, you don't think of your parents' needs. It's not your job to. They think of yours. You don't see them as separate individuals, but you're in relationship. You have this separate individual. So this is Pluto there in the seventh, in other words, symbolizes that element of relationship that forces us to grow up, to change, to move on to the next stage of life. And it may come in a dark way. It may come through someone who is maybe a bit of a psychopath. One of the dark tetrad, as they're known. Yeah? Psychopathy, narcissism, Machiavellianism, and sadism. A pretty quadruplet, or whatever you want to call it, quartet. The quartet. The dark quartet. Pluto is rubbing his hands. Yes, that's me. Yeah? And of course, everyone's a narcissist these days, aren't they? Yeah, all exes are narcissists. And it's like, I stop saying that. It's like we've all got those tendencies, and no one is a narcissist. It's more like we have narcissistic tendencies. Donald Trump is not a narcissist. He just has those tendencies. They're clear for anyone to see. He's not always that. Probably just that more than most of us. Anyway, so Pluto initiates us into the shadow. Yeah, it's relationship, a shadow initiation, which we will start off by seeing in the other. They become the bad guy. And maybe they are. But we also have the bad guy in us. We're not just this sweet little princess or whatever, yeah, or just this brave warrior. We've got a dark side. We've got our own self-interest. We would do things that we don't know that we would do. There's something Jordan Peterson says. He says, you don't know your own shadow until you've imagined yourself as a guard at a concentration camp, which you almost certainly would be if you'd been in those circumstances and told to be. You would be. Not just that, but there would have been a degree to which you would have taken pleasure in that. Now, unless you can imagine that about yourself, he says, you don't know your own shadow. Yeah? It's like we've all got that in us. So Pluto in the 7th is that kind of initiation into the shadow. What a gift. We become whole. Because that shadow side, that's also our protection. That's also our ability to survive. And you may well be given a survival lesson if you've got Pluto in the 7th. Your psychological survival is at stake with this other person. Neptune and Pluto, they're kind of parallel. There's different emphasis. Yeah. With Neptune, you completely lose yourself because you're lost in your own fantasy or that other person's fantasy. With Pluto, you're completely lost and the emphasis is more on power. That other person is in control, or you might be the controller. Usually seems to be, well, you lose something vital in yourself. You lose that element of life in yourself which wants to thrive, which wants to grow. You've given that over. And you daren't speak certain things. You daren't be in certain ways. It's just, it won't come out of your mouth. Do you know that one? When you're disempowered, yeah, you know what the right thing is, but it's just not there. You cannot say it. And something needs to happen before you can say it. And before you can be it, somehow you need to find that power, that Pluto in you. So the classic journey, Pluto in the 7th, is you're with someone. It might be a relationship, capital R. It might be a boss. It might be a parent. Yeah, it might even be your children. Some people are worried about keeping their adult children's approval because they're maybe unconventional and it's their children who are conventional and trying to tidy them up. But anyway, that's another point. Yeah. You need to find that power. Yeah. And you need that person in your life who takes it from you. They want everything their way. Yeah. And for you to be this, and a reality is creating around that. It can feel almost impossible to get out of that. I mean, getting out of a relationship, your whole life can be built on it. All your friends, your children, your home, your finances, everyone's expectation. It can be literally feel psychologically impossible. And something in you may be longing for it. Something in you is going to die unless you can claim that. And yet you can't. And you may get ill. You may get a terminal illness. You may get cancer. It might even kill you. Pluto is deadly serious. He will threaten your survival rather than not let life move on, rather than not let life unfold. So it can be a really difficult challenge that can go on for years with Pluto in the 7th. Now, here's the good side. Yeah, Pluto is about what's real. Pluto is about being honest on a deep level, honest about who you are. So that's who you really need to be with. Pluto in the 7th. Someone where you can be really honest about yourself, because you see, Pluto doesn't judge his demons. His demons and his angels, they're the same thing. They're all part of a whole psyche. And so you need to be able to talk about your anger, your self-doubt, your anxiety, without the other person sort of putting you down or feeling that's a bit too close, yeah? You need to be able to open up fully about all of that. And that enables you to be with them. If you can just talk about them and that other person is willing to accept, they need to be able to listen to that. They need to be comfortable with their own shadow too. Yeah? So something deeply real can come out of this. It's not big and noisy. It may be quiet, but it's real. And you can be deeply yourself in a way that you've maybe never been before. What a joy. There's Pluto's joy and riches.